What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Full Court Talk podcast. This is going to be a good one. We got some really interesting topics just to get into it real quick. So, the first topic we're going to talk about is should the NBA even think about having the All-Star weekend? And the next topic is which players do you expect to be traded before the deadline? The third topic is should the Wizards keep Beal or should they admit defeat and actually start a rebuild? And should the Celtics move Kemba Walker? So starting off with probably our most interesting topic,
Yeah.
All-Star Weekend. This has kind of become like a big topic over the last week. Let me read you a couple quotes. So
Mhm.
from the NBA's father himself, LeBron James, he said, "I have zero energy and zero excitement about the All-Star Game this year. I don't even
Yeah.
understand why we're having an All-Star Game." When LeBron says something, usually it matters.
Yep.
That doesn't matter. De'Aaron Fox said, "If I'm going to be brutally honest, I think it's stupid. If we have to wear a mask and do all this for a regular game, then what's the point of bringing an All-Star game back? Obviously, money makes the world go round. So it is what it is. I mean, I'm not really worried about it. If I'm voted, so be it. If I'm not, you know, but you get fined. If you're supposed to be in it and you're not hurt and you decide not to play, that's a hefty fine. So hell yeah, I would play in it. I hope I don't get fined for saying that shit."
Yeah.
And even Kawhi said he doesn't want to play in the All-Star game, but if it is
Mhm.
happening, he'll be there because that's a fine.
Yeah.
So, with all that being said, what do you think about the All-Star weekend?
I mean, also like Giannis said the same thing. They all seem to agree with LeBron, and you could also say De'Aaron Fox because I feel like those two guys were one of the first two to mention how they to voice their opinion about it. But to me personally, it's just with the global pandemic going on and the fact that the mutated strain might overtake the normal strain of COVID. I don't think it's a smart idea. All Star Weekend has always been about fun, glamour and all that. And it pulls in a lot of media from all over the world, not just from America, from places like Mexico, Philippines, Asia, all over the place. So I understand that, with the way things are, we've adjusted. Interviews are done through Zoom and, limited media availability, but it just won't be the same. And All Star Weekend, like I said, it's a celebration of the NBA's best players for that season. But it's just LeBron, like you said, LeBron said it best. Like there's no point in having it. There's just no excitement, and it's just gonna be, to me, obviously it's an honor to get there to get voted in, and it's a very important aspect of somebody's career in the NBA. But by being there, it's just gonna be like a regular game. Limited people that can be in the arena. I mean, depending on where they hold it, right? But also like it's just a risk factor. Obviously you get voted in, you want to bring your family, right?
Yeah.
And so like I just don't think it's a smart idea. And like you said, LeBron is the NBA's father, and when he voices an opinion, everybody listens.
Yeah.
For example, like when they wanted to pause the games last season, for the bubble or during the justice movement that was going on, right? LeBron had no comments about pausing it. He wanted to pursue it, and I think that's the reason why the NBA continued with the season. So I think now with him saying that he doesn't want it to happen, and I think that he feels the same way for all the people handling it like maturely. I don't. There's a good chance that the All Star Weekend might get halted.
Yeah.
Because I mean that was the original plan, anyways. And everybody was fine with that. But I don't think they've learned a lesson from all the games that were paused this season. And like I said, it just won't be the same. And so
Yeah.
for me personally, I don't think it should happen.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. I don't see the point of having an All-Star game and like honestly like over the like at the exception of last year,
Yeah.
there haven't been many good games for All-Star
Hmm.
weekend.
Exactly.
Um and like I get it. You don't want to try in a meaningless game. Uh but last year was obviously a lot different
Oh
with
yeah.
Kobe's passing.
Hmm.
But like it just makes no sense to have this kind of event. I mean, like, yes, the NBA has been getting better as they had. I think no one tested positive in the last week.
Yep.
But at this point, you're pushing your luck.
Yeah.
You're gonna like it's like Kawhi said. They're thinking of money over player safety.
Yeah,
And it's
definitely.
not a good look because the NBA has been seen as one of the best leagues in the NBA or in the world.
Hmm.
And it just kind of seems like they're going back into that business perspective instead of keeping their players safe.
Yeah,
And that's not always the best case, you know.
yeah.
And I think what De'Aaron Fox said was really good because he's a guy that is easily in the consideration to be a first time All Star.
Yep.
And for him to say, I don't want to be there and I don't want it, that's huge because that means that a guy that could potentially get a bonus for being an All
Hmm.
Star doesn't care.
Yep.
And I think that's a telling thing. There's no reason to have an All Star game. There haven't been many reasons to have it, but especially in a global pandemic, just don't have
Yep.
it. You can
Yep.
skip one season.
I agree. Hmm.
So I mean, it's a definitely a hot topic, and I am sure there's a lot of people that believe there should be an All Star game, but it just makes no sense at this moment. But
Yeah. I mean, to me, honestly, like just one last thing about it, like if they want to have an All-Star game, I would say that they could just announce the All-Stars.
exactly,
You know what I mean?
exactly,
And just have them have that moment and be awarded that honor. Like, hey, for example, De'Aaron Fox, you're an All-Star this year, first time, and that's it. And then, in my opinion, they should just get a break.
yeah,
And also like the break is risky because obviously they get to go home to their families and friends, and they can contract it that way. But for the most part, these guys, they're smart. They want to play basketball, so I think they'll take that in consideration. But by forcing them to be somewhere they don't want to be at because of the fine, then it's just there also won't be any joy to the game.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And they'll just want to get it over with. Simple.
yeah,
And so, like I said, I just think that they should just award the All Stars and then just leave it at that, just
yeah.
to say that they were an All Star.
And you could easily do a dunk contest over Zoom or like any other way. They just record something,
Yeah, they
just
played
have
horse
something.
last year.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was really bad, but
Yeah,
you
yeah,
could do something like that. Just have it a little higher quality.
hmm yeah,
Because it's not safe to do something like that. But
yeah.
moving on to the next topic, which players do you expect to be traded before the trade deadline?
Well, before before yesterday, I had D Rose. He's the
Yeah,
most obvious choice. So I
yeah,
had I had D Rose. I actually didn't expect him to go to the Knicks. I had him going somewhere else. Just because like the Knicks have their own like set of guards already, and I think they were already like set for the future, especially with the rise of IQ.
yeah,
But I shouldn't have doubted Bibbs, because he wants to be reunited with this guy. But I had D Rose, so I'm gonna go on with my list here. So I had him first. I also had Oladipo because for some reason, like the rumor started with him again, being on the trade block, which is crazy because I think he fits the Rocket system very well,
yeah.
and I think he plays alongside John Wall pretty well too. And so I don't understand, the trade rumors that were rising with him. But I mean, maybe they saw something that that wasn't fit. You never know. But I have him also, and then I have Drummond and Lonzo
Yeah.
because Drummond is obviously he was putting up like crazy double numbers right before the Jared Allen trade, and then as soon as Jared Allen got there, the Cavs just fully invested in him because obviously Jared Allen is only 27, as opposed to Drummond, who is also still fairly young, but they have a rim protector and a better mobile big, and so I think they're going to move past him. And plus, they have a logjam in that front court position,
Yeah.
and so it makes sense to move him in his contract. And then obviously Zoe, because I have a feeling even though him and the Pelicans with Zion have a good relationship, I have a feeling that they think he's going to walk. And so rather than lose him for nothing, they want to get something in return. And so I have those guys, but yeah, D Rose first. Now I'm glad. We were talking about this Dennis Smith Jr. I'm glad that he
Yeah.
gets a fresh start with the Pistons. He deserves a run, man. And so like to me, it's crazy because you're trading point guard, that's been proven athletic. D Rose, fortunately declined in athleticism, but
Yeah.
you're trading him for a somewhat younger version of himself.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
And so I'm excited for Dennis Smith Jr. and also D Rose But yeah. So those guys are the ones that I have. So for the trade deadline.
Yeah, and like going off of Derrick Rose, like I wasn't crazy about this move. Um, that's the swapping point guards is one thing, but swapping
Yeah.
point guards when you have already three other ones
Exactly.
doesn't make much sense.
Yeah.
There's no reason Elfrid Payton should be getting 28 minutes a game. He's never been good. He's never proven that he's a starter.
Yeah.
Um, and what does this mean for Emmanuel Quickly? Uh, dude's a
Yes.
stud. He's been
Yeah.
really good as of recently, and he's kind of building on every game.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm not too sure why you'd make this move. Well, obviously, we know that Tibbs is a very big fan of Derrick Rose. He always has been.
Yep.
So I'm just kind of confused on this, but I don't know if this puts them over the top to be a contender to make the playoffs even more so. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Um, Personally, I have Kelly Oubre, who I think could and should get traded.
Hmm.
He's been really bad for the Warriors. He has probably one of the most inconsistent games I've ever seen.
Hmm.
Um, like we saw the other night, he dropped 40, and then the
Yes.
next night he drops like 4 points, 5 points,
Yeah.
and he frequently loses games to the Warriors on both
Yeah.
ends. So
Hmm.
I'm not sure what's up with him. I don't know. I love Kelly Oubre. I love his game, but I just don't think he fits with the Warriors, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously, like Lonzo's name has been thrown around, so I chose Lonzo. I think Lonzo, he's a great player, and I don't think they're utilizing him as well.
Yeah.
I'd be down for a Kelly Oubre Lonzo swap. I'm very high on Lonzo.
Hmm.
People saying that he can't shoot. He's shooting 37 from behind the arc, so
Way better. Yeah.
he can shoot.
Hmm.
Uh, Good passer, good rebounder, good size for a point guard. I think you could play
Yeah.
him in that 1 to 2 area, and he'll be
Hmm.
just fine. Um, and another name I think we'll get into later, but Bradley Beal. Um, he's a
Yeah.
guy that should be traded, and we'll get into that. I don't want to get too much into that, but yeah, there are a bunch of teams that need to blow it up that won't blow it up. Obviously, Victor Oladipo is another guy that you talked about, but he's already said that he's not going back to the Rockets. And with an expiring contract, I think they're just going to take advantage of that. He wants to go to the Heat. He's going to find a way to the Heat somehow. It's crazy,
Yeah.
man. Like, he really doesn't have a lot of power, but at the same time, he kind of does with an expiring contract.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's not going to get a big offer from the Heat. The Heat already have
Yeah.
their established stars, so maybe he just wants to
Exactly.
go for like 5-10 million, which would be
Yeah.
insane. But we'll see, man.
Hmm.
But on to the next one, just because I want to talk about Beal.
Yeah.
Should the Wizards keep Beal, or should they admit defeat and actually start a rebuild? I think yes.
Hmm.
I think we've been saying yes for many years now.
Yeah.
This year especially, you
Hmm.
like we've talked about it. You can't drop 50 points and lose the game
By double
by
digits.
double digits. You can do it, lose a couple points. Steph did it the other night with 57.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
lose by 2 points, it's not on you.
Yeah.
You drop 50 points and you lose by 18 points. Not a
Yeah.
good look.
Yeah.
And currently they are the second worst team, and that's only because they played less games. They are
Yeah.
5-15. The Pistons are 5-18. Both teams are very bad, but it kind of seems like the Wizards are worse. Uh, they have this star that they can build around, and they have a bunch of pieces that just don't work. Right? Rui
Yeah.
Hachimura is one of the worst defenders.
Yep.
Um, Russell Westbrook is a shell of his old self at this point. Um, and your best big goes down. Thomas Bryant, tore his ACL, out for the season. Mo Wagner's not a defensive player. Bradley Beal can't is a serviceable perimeter defender, but he's not going to be that guy that can defend anyone. Essentially, they're the Nets on defense, but they're the Wizards on offense, right? They can't
Hmm.
defend anything. They're really just in that awkward position where you're in the middle of the pack,
Yeah.
but you're still at the bottom. So at this point, I'm not sure what you do. Your star's averaging plus 30 points a game on really good numbers, 47% from the field. Why not trade him? get something
Mm,
back. Flip Russell
exactly.
Westbrook for whatever you can get. But
Yeah.
they're so stubborn that they want to just keep him. But what do you think?
I mean, it's a no-brainer. They should trade him. Honestly, like I feel bad because Westbrook. I'm sure that him and Beal wanted to work it out,
Yeah.
but and also going back to before the season started, I told you like I was excited for the Wizards because I love
Same.
Westbrook and I really wanted to see what they could do. And they had such promise, but it's just been a disaster after disaster. The horrible start they had, the injuries, obviously, and Bradley Beal. I feel like after John Wall, he's done what he can for the city of Washington. I think it's time to move on past him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's legit not his fault. Like he's putting up numbers. Like I understand. Like yeah, he's a bad defender. The Wizards, the whole team is bad on defense, but he does what he can. And he puts up numbers. And like I mean, as we saw with the game against the Nets, the only way they can beat teams is that obviously if they outscore them, they're not going to out defend them. You know what I mean? And like they have to like be on sync, like with everything that they do on offense for them to win, which is terrible. You can't win games like that all the time. And so, yeah, I definitely think the Wizards should move on from Bradley Beal. Um, I think they should try and find the best trade possible and go younger. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? If they're gonna blow it up, obviously the best way is to go younger because like if you try to trade him for another established star, it's not gonna get any better. Um, I know the Scott Brooks Westbrook experiment hasn't been going well, so they might look into that too. And like I told you before, Spence, like I don't want Brooks fired yet because I love the reunion between
Yeah.
them, but
Yeah.
that might be a possibility in the off season. I think they just ride this out now. But trading Beal would also mean that you know they're going all in on Westbrook because they have the option to trade both of them, right? But if they trade Beal, then obviously they want him out over
Yeah.
Westbrook. So that's just going to give the wrong impression to a lot of Wizards fans. But you need at this point Bradley Beal. He's still playing out of his mind. Obviously, an All Star. What he's doing is not a reflection of the record that the Wizards have. But um, to trade him, I think it just puts the Wizards back into rebuild mode, which is fine. They've had some good years already. They just need to run it back a different way. But all in all, like I think he deserves to get traded. You can
Yeah.
tell he's not happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like his facial expression says it all. And like you can't really blame him. He does what he can. Like we both agreed, he drops 50. He dropped 50, you expect to win. You know what I mean? You don't lose by double digits.
Yeah.
So I hope, that he goes to a team that can, appreciate his services. And I know a lot of teams can. And like me personally, like I would definitely like to see him on the Spurs. That's what I was just thinking about the other day.
That'd be a
I would
nice team.
love to see him on the Spurs.
Yeah.
It's like the Spurs right now are in a mix between like young with vets.
Yeah.
And it's just like, the Spurs have always been known to have veterans, never in that in between.
Yeah.
So I would definitely like to see him in a Spurs uniform just because like I feel like for Beal, like working in a system like that would benefit him for sure. And he knows it's a winning culture out there too.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to throw that out there. But yeah, all in all, like I think he should get traded.
Yeah. I think another team, the Heat, would be
Yeah.
really good for him because he could just go to work and essentially play the same offense. Just defensively, he has no worries.
Mm-hmm.
But another team that has been coming up, the Warriors. The
Mm-hmm.
Warriors have been in the rumor mill for a while to get him. Um, Personally, I don't want to do the trade because I'm not giving up Wiseman. And honestly, this might sound crazy. I'm keeping Wiggins as untouchable at the moment just because he's been so good.
Yeah.
Um, but if we traded Wiseman, we're just in the same situation. We don't have any bigs.
Yep.
So, and we're not going to go sign a big because it takes way too long to even get them now.
Yeah.
So, a Beal trade would be bad, in my
This would
opinion.
make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially with Clay coming back, it's the same thing as having D'Lo, Steph, and Clay. That's
Yeah.
just three small guards. But Beal deserves to be out, man. There's no exception on this. You can't be dropping 30 points a game and losing almost every game. That's just not how it
Yeah.
works. And to beat
Exactly.
the Nets, no offense to the Nets, they're not as good as people think because they have no defense.
Mm-hmm.
You let the Wizards score like 140, That's
Yeah.
embarrassing. That's
Yeah.
embarrassing.
Yeah.
But you know, going on to the next topic, another guy that kind of it's a sad story for him, but should the
Mhm.
Celtics move Kemba Walker? What do you think?
For me, out of all the topics that we had for today, this was probably the hardest one because, like, when Kemba went down, obviously Tatum and Brown, they held it down, for the team. And you can see that when Kemba's back, they play well together. They hold their own, and the Celtics have found success with those three. But then, like, to tell you the truth, when he went down, you could see that, hey, you know what, the Celtics, they also have Peyton Pritchard, you know, and so, like, they don't really need like that point guard to get them across the hump
Yeah,
because they have Tatum and Brown. So ultimately, my answer became, yeah, I think they should move past Kemba Walker. What they should do is try to find a solid big, because Tice and Thompson, as good as they are, they don't get the job done, in my opinion. Tice is solid. Um, Thompson was obviously like a good signing for them, but they're still missing that big in the middle. And I know they have Robert Williams as well, but it's just like those three. I don't think they could compete with like somebody like Embiid, because Embiid just goes to work with those guys. You know what I mean? And so, like, and even Jokic. So I think they should just trade for a big, because, like I said, like, they don't really need a superstar point guard like that, especially when they have these two wings that are rising.
hmm
And so, like I said, and they also found a diamond in the rough with Payne Pritchard, and so that just makes Kemba's value for a trade. I mean, for the team, just less. But
yeah,
trade wise, his value's still there. So I think they should move past him. I think his time there has been over, and him and Gordon Hayward, it just didn't work out, obviously. And Hayward over there is playing out of his mind.
yeah,
But yeah, I think they should just trade him. Unfortunately, sad story though. You're right.
yeah. I love Kemba. I think he's one of the most exciting players to watch.
Yeah.
His step back is one of the most nasty moves in the NBA.
Oh yeah.
But I think the sad fact is that he hasn't played well since his injuries. Uh,
Yeah.
and it's tough to watch because he's such a good player. And I know he's a lot better than he's showing right now. And that
Hmm.
kind of comes to the point where, like, what value is he gonna get you? What's he gonna get you? He's not gonna get you any first round picks. He's not gonna get you second round picks. He's not gonna get you a
Yeah.
star at this point.
Yeah.
Do you go for role players when you don't need them? You know?
Hmm.
And I was trying to think, like, could they swing a trade like Kemba Walker to the Cavs for Andre Drummond, which would be way more than the Cavs want or could
Yeah.
get, because I've heard that Andre Drummond is gonna go for a second round pick, something like that, something
Yeah.
really bad.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you'd be stunting the growth of Sexland, Darius Garland, and Colin
Oh
Sexton.
yeah. Yeah.
So, and we've seen the Cavs are willing to get good pieces, but
Yeah.
I mean, like, it made no sense to get Drummond last year, but for whatever they gave up, it was good.
Yeah.
Dante Exum for Jared Allen, good. So they're willing to stack the positions. We've seen that, but
Yeah.
and that comes back to, like, why didn't they trade that Miles Turner Gordon Hayward trade? Right,
Yeah.
Miles Turner's been killing it this year.
Yeah.
So, and that's exactly what they needed. They needed a big,
Yeah.
and they still didn't do it. And you still have to think about, like, as good as Peyton Pritchard is, he's not going to start for you, right?
That's true.
So they're in this kind of awkward position where you need to get two players back, but I don't think he's good enough to get two players back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm not too sure what the Celtics are going to do because they've struggled early on this season. They've been
Yeah.
pretty poor, um, but they're in a very tough position. They have a lot of
Yeah.
small bigs.
And, that too. And I also want to say, if I'm Kemba, I'm trying to find a way to the Heat as well.
Yeah,
Like, I think that would fit him well, because the Heat, like, although they have Goran Dragic, oftentimes they have Tyler Hero like running the point guard, and I think Tyler Hero is not a point guard.
yeah,
He's better off the ball.
yeah,
And Goran Dragic, obviously, with his age, I think they should have a point guard to replace him. You know, and I think Kemba would fit there best, because that's a team that needs point guards. If you think about it, like, the ball handlers that they have: Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and Goran Dragic, obviously. So I think by getting him, I think it would definitely help, the Heat. And another thing that would do for them or for Kemba is that on defense, he would get masked because obviously that's one of his
Yeah.
weaknesses, so they can make up for it on defense. But, going to the Heat, I just think that it would be a better fit for him over the Celtics right now
Yeah.
because the Celtics have proven that they don't really need him.
Yeah.
And I think Miami, if they're looking to turn it around, I think by getting him would be a right step in that direction. So
Yeah. And speaking of Miami, like, do you think they can even turn it around at this point?
that's a good question. With this team, like, I mean, they definitely have the pieces. They're Eastern Conference champs for a reason,
Yeah.
but they just have to win out. They
Yeah.
have to win out, which is easier said than done. In order to win out, like the second half of the season, they just have to go to work. They have to be locked in,
Yeah.
and they have to win like over like 80% of their games. But hey, if they could sneak into the AC, that's all they need.
Yeah.
That's all they need. And like it's unfair for them too because they've been haunted by injuries, and I feel like these injuries have carried over because of the short turnaround.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think they're capable of doing it. It's a matter of can they, obviously locking in, the focus and being healthy because like they've had some weird injuries, like all the way down to Harrow's neck. Like I never even knew that there was a problem there,
Yeah.
but you never know being an NBA player, the injuries can get. So I think they can turn it around.
I think so too. I think the Heat are really interesting just because like they have so many pieces, but that's the problem with having so many returning pieces from last season. It's like you have 72 days to recover from a
Yeah.
brutal final series.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be tough for them. And like you're kind of seeing that with the Lakers now with Anthony Davis getting hurt and kind of
Yeah.
not playing poorly through the first half of the season, but not playing up to his standards at least.
Yeah.
Uh,
Subpar for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
because he's not even shooting the free throw well at this point. Like he's
Dude, man,
struggling.
you're looking like me out there, bro. Can't make a. He missed 2 free throws, and I was
I
like,
saw that.
"Whoa, what's going on here?" But yeah, no, exactly. And it's a testament to how the injuries and like what's been lingering, because
Yeah,
of the short turnaround.
yeah,
So yeah, I definitely agree.
yeah.
Definitely agree.
So and then plus being from Florida is probably not the best because we've seen how Florida is with the Super Bowl, right? They don't care
Yeah,
about
bro, the
COVID,
stadium was full.
quarantining. Oh, it was full. That was full.
Yeah, like a lot of people were saying they're cutouts. No, they weren't, man. They were
Yeah.
not cutouts. Like I guess like there was some, but there were still a lot of people there. But yeah, exactly. You make a good point. Florida, it's just not a good way.
Yeah, yeah. And man,
So,
imagine if they're like, let's have the AllStar Game in Florida. That's the way to
oh
get the most money. That's what they want to do if they did that. I believe
yeah.
it's in Atlanta this year,
Mm.
which is still not great, but it's
They
better than
don't have.
Florida.
Yeah, they don't enforce rules as strict as
No,
California still.
definitely not. Definitely
So
not.
yeah,
So I mean, we'll see.
interesting.
We'll see, but there's a lot of
Yeah,
good stuff happening in the NBA, and I'm excited for the next half of the season whenever that happens. I think it's getting
yeah.
announced in the next 2 weeks, something like that.
Okay.
Um, I'm excited. My Warriors are looking okay, better
They're
than
getting there.
yeah, they're
They're getting
getting there.
there. Yeah.
Lakers look dominant. I saw LeBron do I guess patent the step back, just look at the ball for
Yeah.
like 10 seconds and then just do a sidestep and somehow hit it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting. I'm excited for the rest of the season,
Hmm.
seeing what trades happen because I'm ready for some trades to happen.
Yep. Give us more
Especially,
content.
oh, that's exactly what we want, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm excited. And then had the first one fall, Derrick Rose for Dennis Smith and draft compensation.
Mm,
So we'll see.
yeah.
But that's gonna do it for us today. Catch us in the next one. Check
Yep.
our social medias down in the link below. Um, like, comment, and subscribe. But catch you guys in the next one. See ya.